Yo, what is going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I went 12-0 with the Jynxzi deck. Let's get into the first game. Alright, so first game is going to be against Faye, actually rocking the mirror matchup. So, the mirror matchup, it's basically all about whose defense is better. You actually kind of want to play defensively, unless you actually want to try and starting hand him. Having good space on your troops is really good, especially whenever they get the giant snowball rolling. So, opponent's going to go giant first play, which I do not agree with whatsoever. You know, you're just allowing me to play stuff on my side of the board, stack stuff up, and that's exactly what I want. I want to be able to stack stuff up, I want to be able to play stuff off of each other, and just build up a giant push. We go guards in the opposite lane just because he had forced out an early snowball, and I was just going to try and force out minions so that he didn't have it for my graveyard. So I go pretty aggressive with this witch here, and it does pay off. We end up getting about 1,000 damage. We take a little bit of damage from the minions on the opposite side, but I could kind of tell the opponent was really tunnel visioned with the left side, so I wasn't worried about him trying to push the other side. We get a really good snowball down, and now I'm just waiting. He ends up going for a guards. I was really aggressive. I ended up just going bowler instead of arrows because I wanted to save my arrows for his minions. So we're going to force the bowler out. I actually go aggressive here, knowing that he really didn't have the guards in cycle. He couldn't DPS me down, and I knew I had my arrows in rotation for his minions. I didn't think he would just play witch, so we end up taking the tower really early, which is really good in this matchup. I end up going for minions on that witch, and I basically just get rid of that Evo witch, which is really good because now he cannot attack with it. He shouldn't have went Evo Witch there. He honestly should have just let that push die, playing Evo Witch in the back, and then went Giant Graveyard as double elixir hit. And now going into double, I'm up at basically a tower. You know, and he has a little bit of damage on my right side tower, but I don't think it's enough to actually kind of capitalize on. He goes for the bowler in front of the giant, which is really weird, but it's going to work out because that bowler is going to get stopped. I go for the giant, just trying to let it tank for everything while I kind of take out his giant, and this game is pretty much over. I mean, I get my Evo Witch, I get a snowball down trying to cycle back. I knew he had Evo Snowball on cycle, so I end up trying to just wait, but there's not much he can do with 20 seconds left, especially when I have minions and arrows in cycle. We get another witch down to try and keep my Evo Witch alive, and then we go for a giant in the pocket just to try and kind of distract anything else he would have ended up playing. We go for the graveyard, but it doesn't really matter, and yeah, that's going to be a win in the mirror matchup against the Giant Graveyard. Alright, here getting in to the next game. We are up against Dreg, showing off the Grand Challenge win badge. So, I knew I was probably going to be facing a pretty good deck and a solid opponent. So he goes drill first play. We go with the guards. Bad guards, honestly. I could have just predicted he was going to play it in the front. I was kind of predicting he would have played it one tile over so that my front guard would have taken the hit from that first goblin. I end up cycling the snowball since I really want to get to that Evo Snowball. It's really important in this matchup. I really don't want him to support anything with, you know, his goblin drone. You know, bowler is going to be really important, and guards are going to be really important. So, making sure I had bowler. It was really bad. I ended up going minions on that Goblin Demolisher, which was really bad. He ends up getting 2 shots, and the minions are dead, but knowing that he didn't really have much, just getting ready. I go for a high witch, trying to predict something like skeletons or an ice spirit, but he ends up going Knight Tesla, and it was a bad night because, you know, that boulder ended up not being hit by the Tesla, so that Knight is going to fall. And now we're up elixir, and his hand is pretty awkward, and you know it's gonna be a long time before he can get another Tesla up. So I ended up going pretty aggressive here with a giant in the back. Now I end up just playing guards on this drill for a positive trade. and now I'm just, setting up an attack here. I knew he ended up having Tesla and Cycle, but now knowing that he didn't have a lot of Elixir, I go pretty aggressive here with the Giant Graveyard minions. I kind of just wanted to get that Goblin Demolisher off the stage. It's going to kill my minions, and he's going to get a good Snowball down, but, now we have the damage lead. I would say this matchup is probably in his favor. I really don't have anything for that Goblin Demolisher, and, the one thing that does take it out, which is my minions, it actually will take out. So we end up cycling the bowler here. I feel like it was a pretty good bowler. We're going to go Evo Witch in the back because I knew he didn't have a big spell. So there wasn't really, a good way for him to take me out. We get the guards down, and then we're just going to get a really good arrows down here. And now I'm like, alright, I've got a great push here. Ow, I probably should have went Giant Graveyard opposite lane, but we ended up going minions up high, and I think we get the Snowball down on the Demolisher to hit it into my troops, which is probably a bad play. But, as you can see, we're up a bunch of Elixir, and we still have an Evo Witch on the board. In this matchup, it's okay to go same lane, just because, you can build up a push with your defenses. But I ended up splitting it up, which actually worked out really well for me. We get a really good Giant Graveyard down, and he didn't have enough Elixir to defend everything, so we get the Evo Snowball down, and that's going to be GG's. He cannot defend it all. Let's get into the next match. Alright, so next match is going to be against Dark, and he's actually playing Goblin Giant Sparky without the Chef Tower. So this, in my opinion, is, not really a good matchup for me. And, I just don't really have a reset. His Sparky just gets infinite value unless you can deal with it properly. So in this matchup, it's just going to be about waiting. I end up cycling guards. It's okay to cycle, early on. We end up getting a bowler here in the front of my King Tower. If I would have played it behind my King Tower, that Dark Prince would have been faster, and it would have actually ended up splashing on my tower. We're going to see the Sparky out from him, and I ended up going pretty aggressive here with Giant Minions, just because I didn't know what version he was playing, but he ends up going for the E-Barbs. Now the good thing is I really got lucky because my opponent does end up actually going really aggressive in here. We get the guards down, and he's going to end up raging this, I believe. No, he doesn't. But as you can see, I'm down a lot of Elixir here, and I don't have my guards. This is actually a really, really bad spot for me. But, of course, we'll always find a way with Giant Graveyard, so he's actually leaking here, which I don't agree with. He probably thought we were even on Elixir, so I was just waiting for him to play something. And now, next thing you know, we're both at equal Elixir. I end up cycling the Giant Snowball because I know, kind of once I get to double Elixir, if I don't have the Evolution Snowball, it's going to be really hard for me. He gets a good Goblin Giant down, so that ends up being a 3 Elixir Goblin Giant because I do end up wasting my arrows, but we're going to find a way to defend this. So we're going to get the Evo Witch down. We're going to try and get it up high, and the reason I did that was to try and deflect the Dark Prince from charging onto my bowler. Now it's, double Elixir. He doesn't have anything really good for stuff, so I end up going for the Graveyard, kind of predicting the Sparky so that I could try and, deflect it away from my troops, and, we're going to get a really good push here. And he ends up, Sparky gets a really good shot, but he's kind of in an awkward cycle. We're just going to get that bowler down, we're going to get guards down a little late, because we're going to get that witch down. I end up going guards to sponge the shot, and then we go minions. Now, as you see, I have the Evo Snowball, which I don't have to play, and I'm glad I did it, because it's going to take everything out. We go for the Giant. I was trying to see if it would actually splash onto the Giant instead, but we end up going for a great Evo Snowball. We get the arrows down, and oh, we don't go arrows. Okay, I just set up for a defense, and we go Evo Witch. He can't deal with the Evo Witch. We go guards off to the side. I thought he was going to zap or rage so that, my witch would have no skeletons, but he ends up messing up with the Evo Zap, and this should be just a GG. I end up going Snowball to slow down the Sparky, and then the arrows come down, and then Witch takes the Sparky out before it can even shoot, and that's going to be GG's against Goblin Giant Sparky. Alright, getting into the next match, we're going to be going against Royal Giant. Now, this game was pretty boring. We both kind of just waited until double elixir, so I was really just kind of waiting to see. I saw, Skeleton's log, and so I was just waiting for him to play something, but, with RG, you don't really want to wait until double. In my opinion, he probably should have went, like, Hunter in the back, just to kind of get a feel, because there's some decks that, RG goes against that it just can't win in double elixir. Unfortunately, my deck is actually pretty bad against RG, especially because he's running the E-Spirit. Let's go ahead and skip up to whenever the first play is made. So we're going to go Witch in the back. You don't really want to wait. He ends up going really aggressive, so I end up going Minions Guards, knowing that the log was out of cycle. And, if he would have fireballed, it would have been an overcommitment. We end up going Giant with this, and he ends up just playing Monk. So I end up going Graveyard. I feel like that Monk was pretty bad, even though it's going to kill my Witch. We're going to get a good damage bump, and we're going to take the early damage lead, but now he has, 2 Hunters on the board, and, it's not looking too good, and he has the Monk, so we're just going to splash it back. I was trying to hit it back, and, we're just trying to get that Snowball to hit him back a little bit, but it did not work, so I end up going for the high guards to at least take out one of the Hunters, and then we get a good arrows here, just to try and not take, too much damage. He ends up going RG, so we're going to get minions. We're going to go for a Witch, and I end up snowballing it to slow it down. Maybe I should have went for it higher just to push that Hunter back, but I'm actually going to go pretty aggressive here. I feel like he went really aggressive. I'm actually down a lot of damage. And this match actually went down to the wire. It was actually a really good game. He gets a great E-Spirit. I end up going for the arrows and the Giant Snowball. I went really aggressive. I actually missed the Fisherman, and I think if I got the Fisherman, I would have actually won the game. We're going to go for the Bowler, trying to see if I can snipe that Hunter early. I have to get everything down that I can. He actually has to still force Elixir out on my Bowler, and the Fireball is not going to come down in time. So we end up taking this out. Really close match, 24 HP. That's a really hard matchup too. I think RG has a really good matchup against Giant Graveyard, especially with Fisherman. So yeah. Next game here is going to be against Lincoln 14, also showcasing a Grand Challenge win. He is going to be playing Recruits. This is actually the deck that Ian77 showcased in the CRL League very recently, where he was actually #1. He ended up showing off this deck, didn't want to play Royal Hogs over the Hog Rider. It's just a really solid deck. I still am really not a fan of the Royal Recruits, so we're going to be trying to see how I work around this deck. So, opponent goes pretty aggressive, gets a good Skeleton Dragons off. I think I get a really good Witch. I should have played it one tile over, but I end up messing it up. So, I end up just going for the Giant, and I see that he has Golden Knight. So I knew I was in for a really hard time. I end up going Guards, because I kind of knew I was trying to protect the Witch and kind of predict the early placement, but we end up getting really good damage anyways. We take the damage lead, but I'm going to have a really hard defense here. So I kind of just let everything die, and I think I go for the arrows, yep, so that Flying Machine doesn't get too much value. I end up having to go Bowler at 0 in order to defend this. And, this is looking like a really hard matchup, but, we're going to find a way, for sure. So, opponent's kind of just waiting. I believe he goes Skeleton Dragons. I actually have to wait, but I end up going Minions, trying to force out the arrows. But he's just going to let this die out, which is perfectly fine. It actually benefits him for me to have minions out of cycle so that he can just go recruits for free. But the opponent ends up just cycling Barb Barrel, which he probably honestly should have just went recruits. I go for the Snowball, just trying to cycle back to the Evolution Snowball. And now we're going to go ahead and plop down the Evo Witch. So now we're just going to have to wait. He's going to get a really good ability, and I knew that he would. I end up going Giant to block the Flying Machine. And then after the ability, we get guards down to DPS down that Golden Knight. We're also going to get a really good minions, and then we're going to go ahead and get a Graveyard. I ended up having both evolutions in cycle, and even with the Evo Cage, we get a great Giant Snowball. We're going to get everything down, and I'm just going to be ready for a defense here. His tower is in spell range, which is really good. He ended up using a Golden Knight ability, and we ended up getting a really, really good Giant here. So yeah, we end up, I believe I end up getting the Graveyard down anyways. And that way, just trying to keep that Witch alive. He doesn't really have a response for it. The guard ends up getting stabbed, so we ended up taking the tower. And he ended up knowing it was a good game, so we ended up getting a really good win against the EN77 Recruits Hog Rider deck. And let's get into the last match for 12 wins. Alright, so in this match we're against Droga, and he is playing this really weird Lava Hound deck. It is a Lava Beatdown deck with Phoenix and Flying Machine. So, knowing this was a really weird match, I saw Zap early, and I was thinking P.E.K.K.A, so I ended up going for minions, and then I see Phoenix, and I'm still thinking P.E.K.K.A, but maybe with a Phoenix. I mean, I didn't really think Lava, because Phoenix and Lava hasn't really been meta, but then he dropped down the Lava early. And this matchup I actually feel like is pretty good for me, considering all he has is Curse Rage, I believe, or Curse Zap. He ends up getting a really bad Curse, and I get a really good bowler. I was just trying to deflect that Phoenix. And I knew he, spent a lot of elixir. I mean, he wasted Zap, Goblin Curse, Minor Phoenix, Lava Hound. I mean, that's a lot of elixir. So we end up getting a really good Giant here. We go for the pre-arrows on the skeletons, and yeah, that's going to be towered down. He ends up going for a Phoenix, but it's not really going to do anything. And yeah, we end up taking a really early tower. And, now it's just defending. He has really nothing for the Evo Witch, so even though I'm really not a fan of leaking elixir, it's okay to leak in this situation and wait for him to make a play. But I end up just going for a Snowball to play it safe on that Phoenix, and I'm kind of just waiting for him to make a play. And he makes the play, and we end up going for Evo Witch same lane. I knew he really didn't have anything. He had kind of just showed off his cards, and I figured that he either had like a balloon left or some other ground troop. Because I've played a similar deck, but it was Lava Loon Miner with Barbarians and Tombstone, or Mighty Miner with the double Miner deck that was meta before Evolutions. I loved playing that deck, but for now, we're just going to get, really good defense here. I didn't even have to really arrows. I ended up going for guards, I believe, or on defense, yeah. So our tower was able to clean up everything. We go for the guards, and, I ended up going pretty aggressive, just because I kind of wanted him to force that elixir on the Giant, but when I think about it, I really should have, probably like arrowed the Phoenix or something. I actually get a really bad arrows here. I was aiming for the Flying Machine and the Phoenix, and I missed it by one tile. So this push almost ended up taking me out, and I really should have went guards up high for the Barbarians rather than playing minions and guards. I really should have saved it for the next push. I was just going for Snowball, Evo Witch, and it was alright. And we go for arrows on all of this, and I basically am just trying to get my Giant down soon, but we kept playing cards, and we kept playing towers, and that is going to be 12-0 with Jynxzi's Giant Graveyard deck. Thanks for watching, and let me know what deck y'all would like to see me win next.